After completing this chapter, the learner will be able to recognize the duties of the OSC, identify the different search patterns and when to use them, recognize the limitations of restricted visibility, identify when to end search and rescue operations. You may be designated as an on-scene coordinator, OSC, in an emergency. Let us consider your responsibilities. Coordinate operations of all search and rescue facilities on scene. Ensure operations are conducted safely, paying particular attention to safe operations between all parties, both sea and air. Carry out the search action plan or rescue plan received from the SMC. If no plan is available, then make a plan. Modify the search action or rescue plan as the situation develops, keeping the SMC advised or in consultation with the SMC. Coordinate on-scene communications. Provide relevant information to other search and rescue facilities. Monitor the performance of other participating facilities. Make sit-reps as required. Maintain a detailed record of the operation. Advise the SMC to release facilities no longer required. Report number and names of survivors to the SMC. Provide the SMC with the names and designations of facilities with survivors on board. Report which survivors are in each facility. Request additional SMC assistance when necessary, for instance, a medical evacuation. It is very important that when you take part in a search and rescue operation, you look at the risks involved. The safety of your vessel and your crew should be your priority, and then the safe rescue of the survivors. Some of the practical areas for assessing risk are: is the distressed craft in immediate danger of causing harm to or placing my ship in danger? Can my ship handle the weather conditions? Has the distressed craft given enough information to prepare me in assisting in the rescue? Can my ship be of any real assistance? If recovery of a large number of survivors is a factor, can my ship accommodate them in regards to food, shelter, clothing, living space? Will my ship's stability be affected with the survivors on board? If helicopter operations are a factor, is the ship's construction suitable for a ship-aircraft joint operation? Do we have enough crew members available to assist? Safe search and rescue operations depend on teamwork and risk assessment. The international regulations for preventing collisions at sea continue to apply fully while carrying out searches. The manoeuvring and warning signals are very important in these circumstances. Any vessel not involved in the search and rescue operation should be aware of it and try and stay well clear. The SMC usually prepares a search action plan using trained personnel, search planning techniques, and other information the OSC may not be aware of. However, there may be circumstances where the search plan has not been provided. You may have been designated as the on-scene coordinator, but not given a search action plan by the SMC. You might then need to make a search action plan, taking into account the following: estimating the most probable position of the distressed ship or survivors, taking account of drift, determining the search area, selecting a search pattern, planning on-scene coordination, and the prevailing weather conditions. The datum is the start point for all search patterns. It is where we now expect the survivors to be, taking account of wind and currents. The SMC will have a computer program that can calculate the movement of the distressed craft. However, if you are not given a datum, and you arrive on scene, you may have to calculate the datum point, taking into account the following 3 factors. reported position and time of the incident, the time interval between the incident and the arrival of the search vessel, and drift resulting from water current and leeway. For example, if there is a 3-knot current running due north and a wind from due east creating a leeway speed of 4 knots, then the combined effect would be a 5-knot drift in the direction shown. After 2 hours, this would create a 10 nautical mile change of datum in the same direction as the drift. Track spacing is the distance between adjacent search tracks. This is usually as advised by SMC, or there is guidance in IMSAR Volume 3. There are 5 types of search pattern. Click on each pattern to find out more. Sector search is most effective when the position of the search object is accurately known and the search area is small. It is used to search a circular area centered on a datum point. Due to the small area involved, this procedure must not be used simultaneously by multiple aircraft at similar altitudes or by multiple vessels. An aircraft and a vessel may be used together to perform independent sector searches of the same area. A suitable marker, for example a smoke float or a radio beacon, may be dropped at the datum position and used as a reference or navigational aid, marking the center of the pattern. For aircraft, the search pattern radius is usually between 5 to 20 nautical miles. For vessels, the search pattern radius is usually between 2 and 5 nautical miles, and each turn is 120 degrees, normally turned to starboard. The expanding square search is normally selected when the location of the search object is relatively well known. The commence search point is always the datum position. Accurate navigation is required. The first leg is usually oriented directly into the wind to minimize navigational errors. Due to the small area involved, this procedure must not be used simultaneously by multiple aircraft at similar altitudes or by multiple vessels. Track line search is normally used when an aircraft or vessel has disappeared without a trace along a known route. A track line search is often used as an initial search effort due to the ease of planning and implementation. The track line search is a rapid and reasonably thorough search along the intended route of the distressed craft. A track line search may be along one side of the track line and return in the opposite direction on the other side. The search may be along the intended track and once on each side. Then the search facility continues on its way and does not return. Aircraft are frequently used for track search due to their high speed. The parallel track search is used to search a large area where survivor location is uncertain. The following should be noted. It is usually used when covering a large search area. This can then be divided into sub-areas for assignment to individual search facilities that are on scene at the same time. The commence search point is in one corner of the sub-area, half the track space inside one corner of the rectangular search area. When performing a parallel track search with several ships in a coordinated way, then all ships should proceed at the same speed, taking into account the maneuverability of all craft involved. Coordinated vessel-aircraft search patterns are normally only used when an on-scene coordinator is present to give direction to and provide communications with the participating craft. A creeping line coordinated search is most often used. The aircraft does most of the searching, while the ship steams along a course and at a speed as directed by the OSC. The aircraft will use the ship as a navigational checkpoint. This gives a better chance of detection than an aircraft searching alone. A parallel track search in restricted visibility can lead to problems because to see the search object, the track spacing needs to be smaller, but we need to ensure search units will not collide with each other. And the loss of search area coverage, because of the reduced spacing, increases the time to search a given area. The on-scene commander may need to change the search pattern used or reduce vessel speeds to ensure a safe, effective search. In poor visibility, any ship not fitted with radar or whose radar has become defective should consider dropping astern of other ships and inform the on-scene commander. There are two reasons to stop a search and rescue operation: when it is successful or when it has been judged to be unsuccessful. A search and rescue operation is considered successful when the distressed craft and/or survivors have been sighted and an effective rescue has been carried out. The OSC will inform the SMC that the search and rescue operation has been successful and that all survivors have been found. The SMC would usually cancel the distress message when no more assistance is required. Searches should be carried out until all reasonable hope of rescuing survivors has passed. The OSC and SMC, if possible, would have a discussion, and one of the factors that would be taken into consideration when cancelling an unsuccessful search is the possibility that survivors might still be alive. The responsibilities of an on-scene coordinator are set out in IMSAR Volume 3. Anyone taking part in a search and rescue should assess the risks involved. The international regulations for preventing collisions at sea continue to apply fully while carrying out searches. The datum is the start point for all search patterns. It is where we now expect the survivors to be, taking account of wind and currents. Sector search is most effective when the position of the search object is accurately known. Expanding square search is most effective when the location of the search object is fairly well known. Track-line search is normally used when an aircraft or vessel has disappeared without a trace along a known route. Parallel track search is used to search large areas where survivor location is unknown. Coordinated vessel-aircraft search patterns are normally only used when an OSC is present. After completing this chapter, the learner will be able to identify the preparations to be taken on board when proceeding to the scene of distress. Identify the preparations to be taken when approaching a distressed craft. When going to the scene of a rescue, the ship and crew need to prepare for the possibility that they may have to search for and recover survivors from survival craft or from the water. The master should carry out a risk assessment when en route and on scene. A full appraisal of the weather conditions should be made. The master will instruct each department to their specific duties. The boatswain would usually get the deck gear ready, and the catering staff would prepare the medical and survivor rooms already allocated in the muster list. I Am Sar Volume 3 contains a checklist of equipment that might be needed. When approaching the area of a distressed craft, make sure you use all available means to maintain awareness of the location of the distressed craft, and post extra lookouts to keep distressed craft in sight. Ensure another risk assessment is done before approaching the distressed craft. The direction of approach will depend on the circumstances. A ship on fire will have to be approached from windward. Whilst drifting objects, such as life rafts, should be approached from leeward. When going to the scene of a rescue, the ship and crew need to prepare. I Am Sar Volume 3 contains a checklist of equipment that might be needed. Lookouts should be placed high up by day, but close to the waterline and forward by night. A ship on fire will have to be approached from windward, but other craft should usually... After completing this chapter, the learner will be able to recognize the master's responsibilities for the aftercare of survivors. State what is meant by a place of safety. Recognize what is meant by immediate care of survivors. Identify what to do when deceased persons are picked up. The International Convention for Search and Rescue requires state parties to ensure that assistance is provided to any person in distress at sea and to provide for their initial medical or other needs, and deliver them to a place of safety. Any ship rescuing survivors must comply with this. But what is a place of safety? A place of safety is a location where rescue operations are considered to end. It is a place where the survivors' safety of life is no longer threatened, and where their basic human needs, such as food, shelter, and medical needs, can be met. It is a place from which transportation arrangements can be made for the survivors' next or final destination. An assisting ship should not be considered a place of safety based solely on the fact that the survivors are no longer in immediate danger once aboard the ship. An assisting ship may not have appropriate facilities and equipment to sustain additional persons on board. It may not be able to feed and care for the survivors. Even if the ship can temporarily accommodate the survivors and serve as a temporary place of safety, it should be relieved of this responsibility as soon as alternative arrangements can be made. Often, the assisting ship may be able to transport the survivors to a place of safety. However, if performing this function would be a hardship for the ship, the Rescue Coordination Centre should arrange other alternatives. You can use the I Am SAR Volume 3 checklist as a reminder of the types of questions you should be asking the survivors. There are 3 main reasons for asking questions. Firstly, we must make sure we have rescued everyone. We must also make sure that we are aware of any injuries they may have sustained in the incident, and of any ongoing medical condition they have that may need treatment. And they obtain information that may improve search and rescue operations. Care and a calm approach need to be taken when questioning survivors, as they may be frightened and confused. During a search and rescue operation, there may be times when the outcome is not as hoped. Without putting rescuers in any further danger, attempts should be made to retrieve the body or human remains and any belongings at the scene that may be of use in identifying the deceased persons or of comfort to the family. These articles should be stored separately in a container and labelled so that they can be associated with the correct person later. Bodies recovered, or people who have died aboard ship, should not be kept near the place where you are sheltering the living. You need to be aware of the treatment of hypothermia, and in particular that people suffering from hypothermia may appear to be dead, but can still be resuscitated. If in doubt, ask for medical advice. If a body is recovered from the water or a survivor dies on board, it is very important to make out a short document containing the following information, if known. The full name of deceased, their age, the place, date and time of death or when they were found, and the cause of death. The body should be carefully laid out, placed in a body bag or wrapped and stored in a suitable place on board, usually refrigerated. Full consideration should be made in respect of known religious or cultural beliefs regarding the deceased. The World Health Organization book, The International Medical Guide for Ships, is carried on board most ships. This contains advice on the care of a deceased person and the treatment of survivors. If it is known or suspected that a deceased person had an infectious disease, all material and objects which had been in direct contact with the deceased person must be cleaned and disinfected or destroyed. The International Convention for Search and Rescue requires state parties to ensure that assistance is provided to any person in distress at sea and to provide for their initial medical or other needs and deliver them to a place of safety. A place of safety is where the survivor's life is no longer threatened, their basic needs can be met, and from where transportation arrangements can be made. Plan in advance where survivors can be accommodated and looked after on your ship, and who will look after them. Survivors need to be debriefed to ensure that everyone has been rescued, that all their medical needs are met, and to obtain information which might help future search and rescue operations.